Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to what if Deku had Imagine Breaker. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
They took it to 10.
Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the wild fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so last time we just got done with the heroes versus villains kind of test with All Might. And yeah, so in this one we're gonna go over the USJ arc. And yeah, before I get into the actual what if, I'd like to thank you guys for all the subscribers I've been getting recently. We're almost at 1,000, right? And like I've been saying for the past few videos, we're almost at 1,000. When we get to 1,000, I have something pretty big planned, so I want to get there as fast as possible. I know I've been saying this in a lot of videos, and I might sound annoying, and it might seem like I'm only in this for the views and subscribers, but I actually do appreciate everyone who does subscribe, right? And the reason why I'm pushing this idea of getting me to 1,000 is because what I said earlier, I'm planning something big. So yeah, so let's actually get into the what if. So like I said last time, we just got done with the heroes versus villains, and we're getting into the USJ. So if I didn't say before, I would think that Deku's hero costume would be that of Aizawa's, similar in design and also with the scarf, right? He's not very flashy, he doesn't want to be, and he wants use of his right arm, right, so he could nullify quirks easier. So we would get to the point where Aizawa would tell students that they're actually going to the USJ so they could learn hero rescuing situations and things like that, right, to kind of teach people who want to be or get people interested into wanting to be rescue type heroes. So yeah, so it'd be the next day, and they would go on the bus to the USJ, and basically they would have that conversation on the bus where Suyu or Froppy would tell would bring up that conversation about the 3 strongest people in the class, and they would mention Midoriya since he has kind of 2 abilities in this one, since he has Imagine Breaker and then all One for All, but they don't know about that, and they would question Izuku about this, like, it's your quirk is kind of similar to All Might, and people would bring up the fact All Might doesn't hurt himself when he uses his quirk, because in this one, even though Midoriya would know, I think I said he has 25% of One for All at this point, he would still hurt himself, because at first, just like normal or in canon, he would use 100% during the USJ, the entry exams, and also whenever he tries to flick his finger, right, he would break it because he doesn't know full cowling, right, at this point. So they would basically talk about this, and they would talk more about their quirks, since not everyone knows each other's quirks, and they would ask Deku about his Imagine Breaker. They wouldn't say Imagine Breaker, but they would ask him about his right arm, right? So he would basically explain, since ever since he was a kid, he has the ability to nullify quirks, and this also includes projectiles if he touches them with his right arm. And I don't know if the sound that Imagine Breaker makes is canon, because no one in the certain magical index kind of universe actually brings that up or acknowledges that happens. So we don't really know for sure that's canon, right? But let's say it is. So he would explain every time he nullifies a quirk, it makes this weird sound, and it kind of works on every kind of quirk, even mutation quirks to a certain extent, right? And Todoroki and Bakugo will be hearing this, and Bakugo's a little bit mad, but not really, since he has this kind of he's still friends with Midoriya and not really sees him as a rival when they were younger, but now he kind of does, and he's kind of mad, right? that he's almost surpassing him in a way. And Todoroki, he's just kind of hearing this, and he still acts the way he does, where he just kind of sits by himself and doesn't really pay attention to the others because he wants to be the number one hero, and he wants to do that without using his other side of his quirk. So they would get, Aizawa would basically tell the class to be quiet because they're about to be there. And yeah, also people would comment about how similar Deku's like outfit is to Aizawa's, and Deku would tell him that when he was a kid, he would really look up to Aizawa because of his quirk. I'm sorry if you could hear that background noise. There's like a plane flying by. But yeah, so he would basically, Aizawa would hear this and he would feel kind of proud that, because he's a type of like hero that doesn't like the limelight. So for a kid to have, to be inspired by him, even though he tries to go out of his way not to be, viewed by the public, it makes him kind of happy, right? So they would get to the USJ, and 13 would come out, explain, that kind of speech as he does in the anime, and basically, Deku wouldn't really mind this too much because his power is just to nullify things, right? So, and I'm talking about his like base quirk, right? So they would continue, and as they're going down, they see that this big portal's opening up, and what happens here is that there's a gateway, and through this gateway comes out a lot of villains, and people are confused, thinking that this was supposed to be rescue type, tests. And Aizawa basically says this is not a drill; these are actual villains. 13, keep the kids safe, and this is when he jumps down to kind of go help, or kind of stop the kind of situation down there. So basically what would happen is that Deku would follow Aizawa because he is very knowledgeable on martial arts, and he also has the ability to nullify quirks, and he has that super strength, right? But he doesn't know how to fully use it at this point. And if what's his name, Kurogiri tried to teleport Deku, it wouldn't work because of his Imagine Breaker. It would go off even if Deku didn't want it to. So Deku would be rushing down with Aizawa and kind of mirroring his kind of movements with his scarf and things like that, right? And he's not really using one for all because he doesn't really know how to use it, right? So he would just use his normal strength, right? And in the My Hero universe, the limits of human strength is a lot higher than it is in reality. That's why you have characters like Stain and Aizawa who are, superhuman without having like super strength quirks or super speed quirks. So Deku would be kind of on that verge of superhuman because of how he's been training his entire life, because of the nature of his quirk and how it's you need to be physically strong by yourself for it to be, to have the most potential. So Aizawa wouldn't train himself as much as he does in the anime because there's another person kind of there helping him out. And if any projectiles like lightning, fire, ice, anything like that, water, would come to, Aizawa or Deku could just use his right arm and this could nullify it. We see this with Toma versus Misaka with her electricity. It would just nullify it, right? And of course, All Might is not there because he's out helping people and he kind of went past his limit, right? Or his time limit. But it's not as high, or it's not as short as it was in canon because he wasn't needed to stop the sludge villain, if I remember right. So, they're Aizawa and Deku kind of back to back, kind of like beating up any villains that got near, and Deku's there to kind of like be Aizawa's shield in a sense to kind of block any projectiles that come his way. And as this is happening, Shigaraki's kind of annoyed by this, so he sends out his Nomu to go and kill Aizawa and Deku, right? And the fight between these two is very, I would say, very hard for each, right? Everyone involved, right? Because Aizawa can take away the quirk of the Nomu, but he still has he has that really super strength, right? He naturally has super strength, but the fight is kind of one-sided, right? Even though they could take away his quirk, if Deku was to use one for all on the Nomu, there's no real guarantee that it would do enough damage to kill, right? It'd be the similar case with like him versus Muscular, right? Even though like it would do damage, it's not really too much to actually hurt him, even if you take away the shock absorption, right? Because he has that natural defense of his muscles, right? His general, like, because the Nomus are like pure muscle, and they have superhuman levels of strength naturally, right? Because that's not part of their quirks. So the way that they would kind of do this is kind of do like a kind of, I guess the metaphor would be like 1,000 cuts, basically doing a lot of small kind of attacks on him to kind of wear him down. When Aizawa can no longer, when he needed to close his eyes, this is when Deku would, hold on to the Nomu with his right to kind of stop his quirk anyways. So then they would kind of alternate between the two to kind of do damage like that. And Deku would use one for all in this, but it would kind of be the shock of his like fist would be kind of lessened, because he's hitting something that is, I guess, something softer. Not like he would still get injured, right? He would get very bruised every time he'd use it, but he would still be able to kind of win, right? So when the Nomu's kind of on the ground, kind of bloody and bruised, this is when Aizawa would go for the killing blow and kind of I guess use his like metal scarf to kind of cut off the head, right? Kind of like I forgot what the tool is, but it's basically like thin wire that people have used in the past to kind of do those kind of assassinations with slitting the throat and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get into much detail about that. But basically, yeah, he basically decapitates the Nomu. And Shigaraki's kind of confused on how this happened. And he's like, what? There's 2 users that could nullify quirks? But that kid, he's going faster than usual. Why is he going that fast? How does he have that much strength in him? He's like, he doesn't know how to comprehend this, right? And this is when the other heroes come through. And this is when Snipe basically does the same thing as he does in the anime. Helps save some of the students using his, revolver, and then shooting Shigaraki 4 times in different, his 4 limbs, right? So as this is going down, this is when he asks Kuriguri to kind of get him out of there. So what Deku does at this point is he goes to the other parts of the USJ to kind of help out people. And in one in particular, he goes to Suyu, since she's kind of in the middle of the water, right? And she would be kind of being chased by the villains. So I think she'd be able to escape to land, but the villains are still there. So there isn't like a way for most of those villains to kind of fight on land from what we saw, since their affinity is kind of water stuff. So what Deku would kind of do is that he would come with like All Might, right? Because All Might would be here by now. Or actually no, All Might wouldn't try to use his power, since he doesn't want to. He already wasted like his limiter or his time limit, and there are other kind of heroes to kind of help. So what would happen is that Cementos would be there, and he would kind of push the water aside to kind of open up a big kind of area for Deku and the other heroes to kind of fight off the villains that are there. So with the help of Froppy and Deku, they would kind of beat up all the kind of villains that are there, and they would kind of do some tag team moves where Froppy would like kind of throw villains at Deku, and Deku kind of deactivate their quirk. letting them, you know, become vulnerable for One for All, or, you know, just his general strength, right? And he would kind of like, this is how they would kind of take out villains. And by the end of it, you know, the media would come, and I think they would be looked in a positive kind of view because no one was really hurt. They were able to capture so many villains, and, you know, they were able to injure the main leader, and the Nomo would be dead. So I would think that it would be viewed very positively by the media, and Deku would get a lot of coverage because he was one of the students to kind of help out with the teacher. And I think he would kind of be seen as kind of Aizawa's pupil because of how similar he dresses and how similar his quirk is, by the fact that both of them can disable quirks. So I think I'll end it here, and then in the next part we'll go over the training, and then the kind of, you know, arc with that, the sports festival. So yeah, like I said, I'm almost at 1,000, so I really appreciate it if you guys can subscribe. Also, I'm thinking of doing a exclusive series on the Sins channel. It's gonna be called "What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk?" So yeah, basically, if you want to know when that drops, I'm gonna make an announcement when I do. It's not gonna be like an announcement by itself. It's gonna be like part of a video, just like how I do some announcements during a normal video. So yeah, if you were like really interested in that kind of what if, then go check out the Sins channel, subscribe, and it's gonna be up there soon. So with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah.